Hi, guys. It's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. We missed OJ yesterday. And the day before, it wasn't that bad. They didn't raise my blood pressure hardly at all. But Rosa is still on the stand. My second shirt is not working any better than my first shirt. I'm going to burn that first shirt. I'm going to burn it. So, but this one will raise our blood pressure because now it's his turn to come back up. And we're going to hear lies. We're going to hear a lot of lies. And that's okay. We're expecting it. So it's okay. Oops. I'm always going to start at the top so we can see our progress every day because it's awesome. It's awesome. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Stamina. Lots of stamina. Whoops. I hate when YouTube does that. There we go.
You watched the dog and you had him on a leash during this period of time, did you?
¿Y usted miró al perro y lo tenía con la correa todo este tiempo en el leash?
Sí.
Yes.
All right. And when you left, at that point, did you go someplace else?
¿Y en ese momento usted se fue a otra parte?
No, me fui para adentro de mi casa.
No, I went back inside my house.
All right. And when you left to go back inside your house, was the Bronco still parked at the curb at the same way you'd seen it earlier?
Y cuando usted se entró para dentro de su casa, el Bronco todavía estaba estacionado en la misma forma que usted lo vio que usted lo había visto. Estaba estacionado igual cuando usted se entró a la casa.
Sí.
Yes.
And then you went back inside your house, and where did you go at that point inside the house?
Y luego usted se fue para dentro de la casa otra vez. ¿A dónde se dirigió en esos momentos cuando volvió a entrar a la casa?
A mi cuarto.
To my bedroom.
All right. Did you go to your bedroom at that point?
¿Usted se fue a su dormitorio en esos momentos? ¿Se fue a su dormitorio en esos momentitos?
Ya, le pongo el collar a la perra de vuelta, le quito su leash y ya la dejo y ya me voy a mi cuarto.
I put the collar back on the dog. I take off the leash and I leave her there, and then I just go back into my bedroom.
Right. Oh. And after you did this and you went to your bedroom, what happened after that? What did you next do?
Pues después de que hizo eso y regresó a su dormitorio, ¿qué más es que hicieron? ¿Qué más?
A ver televisión.
Just watch TV.
All right. Do you know about how long you watched television before something else happened?
¿Usted sabe?
Sustain. First question.
Certainly. Did you watch television for a period of time?
¿Usted miró televisión por un periodo de tiempo?
Sí.
Yes.
And do you know about how long you watched television?
¿Y usted sabe como por cuánto tiempo miró televisión usted?
No.
No.
Right. At some point later that evening, did you ever hear any more voices?
En algún momento más.
Sustain.
She hears voices.
Did
Anything else attract your attention?
Did anything else attract your attention? Sounds like a good question to me. Anything else attract your attention later that evening?
¿Algo más le llamó la atención a usted más tarde esa misma noche?
Sí.
Yes.
And do you know when that was, approximately when that was, ma'am?
¿Y usted sabe cuándo fue eso? Aproximadamente cuándo fue eso, señora?
Como a las 11
About 11
de la noche,
p.m.
oí la voz. Oí, no distinguí lo que el señor Simpson decía porque oí que habló.
I
pero
heard
no
the
sé,
voice and
no
I
sé lo
couldn't
que dijo.
distinguish what Mr. Simpson was saying, but I heard the voice, but I don't know what he said.
All right, and where were you when you... Responsive. Said 11 o'clock.
Sustain.
What portion, Your Honor?
That's stricken the part that's non-responsive after 11 o'clock.
All right.
When was that? Then what was that?
At 11 o'clock, you heard some conversation. Will you tell us what was that, what you heard at that point?
A las 11 de la noche usted dice que usted oyó una conversación. No puede decir qué era eso.
Yo no oí lo que hablaba, yo solo oí que hablaron.
I didn't heard what was said. I just heard that they talked.
And You heard Mr. Simpson's voice, did you?
¿Usted escuchó la voz del señor Simpson?
Sí.
Yes.
Did you recognize any other voices that you heard that night, at that time?
¿Usted reconoció alguna otra voz que usted escuchó esa noche, en
No.
esos momentos?
No.
No, no.
All right. What happened after you heard Mr. Simpson's voice? What happened next?
¿Qué pasó después de que usted escuchó la voz del señor Simpson? ¿Qué pasó luego?
Ya quedó callado.
Then everything was quiet.
And after everything was quiet, where were you inside your house?
Y después de
Inside
que
the sound
todo
of his
quedó
house.
callado, ¿a dónde estaba? ¿En qué parte de su casa estaba usted? En la casa de los Salinger.
Desde esa hora estoy en mi cuarto todo el tiempo.
I'm not sure. It has to be a different purple suit. It just has to be. There's no way I missed this. I think she wore purple 2 days in a row. I just think so.
At that time, I'm always in my bedroom, all the time.
Now, after that, did something else draw your attention after you had heard Mr. Simpson's voice and after a period of time passed?
Después,
Sustains.
Did there come a time when things weren't quiet in and around your residence or Mr. Simpson's residence?
World.
There come a time?
después llegó el momento en que las cosas ya no estaban tan pacíficas ahí cerca de la casa del señor Simpson, cerca de su.
Como a las 12 de la noche, oí que platicaban hombres en el lado de la Rockingham.
About 12 midnight, I heard that
She had to-
men that were talking on the Rockingham side,
Y el perro de él, un negro que tiene, yo no sé cómo se llama, ladraba mucho.
and his dog, I don't know what his name is, but it's a black dog that was barking a lot.
And what time was this?
¿Qué horas fue esto?
Spot.
Como a las 12 de la noche.
About 12 midnight.
And do you know that dog's name?
¿Y usted sabe cómo se llama ese perro?
No, señor.
Was
No,
that Mr.
sir.
Simpson's dog?
¿Ese es el perro del señor Simpson?
Sí, señor.
She lived next door for 3 years, and so I think I'm sorry.
World.
Okay.
Answer stand. We
No,
also have
sir.
a black dog.
You heard the dog barking?
¿Usted escuchó el perro ladrando?
Ladraba y lloraba, señor.
He barked and he cried, sir.
And how long did you hear this dog barking?
¿Y por cuánto tiempo escuchó este perro ladrando?
Como un cuarto para la una, como 15 para la una.
About 1:45, about 15 to 1.
And these voices that you had heard, that you said when you were Rockingham, how long did those voices continue?
Y estas voces que usted oyó cerca de la Rockingham, ¿por cuánto tiempo continuaron estas voces?
Yo no puse atención porque como no estaba, no me interesaba saber la hora, yo no miro reloj.
I didn't pay attention because I wasn't interested I'm not interested in watching the time. I didn't see the clock.
Tal vez a las 12:30 o 12:40, yo no
Maybe 12:30, 12:40, I
yo no sé.
don't know.
So that, to be clear, you first heard the voices about midnight?
Para aclarar, usted primero,
Okay, we are on February 27th. Okay. I don't know if this is why. So it's close. It's close. In March, is Women's Day. They wear purple to protest. I don't know. Maybe that's why she wore purple 2 days in a row. Maybe she's, protesting. March 8th, many women in Mexico and other Latin American countries wear purple. So that could be why. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just making things up in my head, but we'll see what she wears tomorrow.
World.
She wears
¿usted
purple
primero
tomorrow,
escuchó las
then that's
voces
why.
a las 12 de la medianoche?
Sí.
Yes.
No woman wears the same
And
color
the
2
best of
days in
your
a row.
recollection, what was the last time that you heard these voices
Y lo
on
mejor
that early morning?
que usted recuerde, ¿cuándo fue la última vez que usted escuchó esas voces ahí en la madrugada?
Como a las 12:30, digo yo, más tarde.
12?
12:30.
Around 12:30, I think.
All right. And at the time that you last heard these voices about 12:30, do you recall whether or not the dog was still barking during this time?
Y cuando la última vez que usted escuchó las voces a las 2:30, ¿verdad? Todavía él estaba ladrando el chucho.
Sí.
Yes.
And can you tell us
The dog
whether
was
or not
barking
you
for
ever saw
hours.
any persons outside near Rockingham when you heard these voices?
¿Y usted puede decirnos si usted vio algunas personas afuera ahí en la Rockingham cuando usted escuchó estas voces?
Yo tenía mucho miedo, yo no estaba abriendo mi ventana porque oí los pasos primero, yo no.
Was very scared and I wasn't about to open my window when I first heard the steps, the footsteps.
Alright.
I don't.
You didn't hear it? Did you ever?
Sustained. We're asked the question. Answer stricken.
Sorry. Did you ever, when you heard these men's voices about 12 midnight, did you ever look outside and see any men outside near Rockingham?
Assumes it's men too.
I thought you said men, but when you heard these voices outside, did you ever look outside and see anyone?
Cuando escuchó estas voces y cuando usted miró, espió para afuera, ¿usted miró a alguien?
No.
No.
Did you ever look outside and see the dog at any time after you heard the dog start to bark?
¿En algún momento usted miró para afuera y vio al perro cuando el perro empezó a ladrar?
No, que tenía mis cortinas cerradas, yo no miro para afuera.
No, because I had my curtains closed. I don't look outside.
All right. Can you tell us about how long the dog continued to bark, if you know?
¿Podría decirnos por cuánto tiempo permaneció el perro ladrando, si usted sabe?
Overruled.
Puede contestar.
Por mucho tiempo, señor.
For a long time, sir.
Now, did you continue to remain awake during this period of time, or did you fall asleep, or what happened?
¿Usted continuó
He's calling
despierta
me
durante
out.
todo este periodo de tiempo o se durmió
Yes, I'm
o qué
awake.
pasó?
Después me dormí.
I fell asleep later.
All right, and can you tell the court what time it was that you fell asleep that particular night?
¿Le puede decir usted al tribunal como que horas eran cuando usted se durmió esa noche en particular?
Yo no vi el reloj que horas me dormí, porque yo me dormí.
I didn't see the clock what time I fell asleep.
All right, do you have any idea of what time it was when you fell asleep at all?
¿Usted tiene alguna idea qué horas eran cuando usted se durmió? Un momento.
Overruled. You can answer.
Puede contestar.
Como las 2 de la mañana, quizá.
About 2 a.m. I think.
All right, you weren't looking at your clock at that point.
¿Usted no estaba mirando su reloj en ese momento?
No, señor.
No, sir.
All right. When you fell asleep, do you remember whether or not there was any noise from the dog barking at 360 Rockingham just before you fell asleep, if you remember?
Antes de que usted se durmiera, ¿usted se recuerda si escuchó que el perro estaba ladrando en el 360 Rockingham?
Sí.
Yes.
Right now, after you fell asleep, sometime after 2 o'clock in the morning, do you remember what time you woke up on Monday, June 13th, 1994?
Cuando usted, después de que se durmió como a las 2 de la mañana, ¿verdad? ¿Usted recuerda a qué hora se despertó el día siguiente, el 13 de junio?
Me levanté a las 8 de la mañana porque llegaban los jardineros, esa hora llegan los jardineros.
I got up at 8 in the morning because the gardeners came. That's what time the gardeners come.
And the gardeners come, they come every Monday at that time back in June of 1994?
Y los jardineros llegaban todos los lunes a esas horas, ahí en junio.
A
de
veces
90.
llegan un poquito más, 15 minutos más tarde o 15 minutos más temprano, pero a las 8 ellos están ahí y hacen mucho ruido con la sopladora, por eso se despierta uno.
They come 15 minutes earlier or later, but they're there at 8 o'clock and they make a lot of noise with the blower.
All right, and the blower, the sounds awakened you, is that correct?
Y la sopladora, el ruido de la sopladora es lo que le despertó a usted, ¿así es?
No, me tocaron, no, me levanté porque estaban los jardineros ya, ¿verdad? Me levanté.
No, well, I got up, you see, because the gardeners were already there.
All right. And after you got up, did someone come to your door at some point that morning?
Y después de que usted se levantó, alguien
Overruled.
llegó a su puerta, ¿verdad?
¿Alguien tocó el timbre?
Somebody rang the doorbell.
And
¿Y?
the doorbell this person rang, do you know, or can you describe for the court where that was in relation to where you lived, the portion of the house that you occupied in the Salinger's home?
Y el timbre, ¿verdad? Usted puede explicarnos en qué parte de la casa está en relación a donde usted vive, ¿verdad? Y en la casa de los Salinger.
En la puerta en la puerta donde entran los señores.
It's at the door where the owners of the house go in.
All right. Are you able, if you look at the monitor again, are you able to find that door at any place on the monitor there?
Puede encontrar esa puerta.
This woman has bombshell testimony, apparently. Where is it? When are we going to get there?
It's 1044.
En algún lugar, en el monitor ahí en...
Ay, esto está muy chiquito,
This
señor, yo
is
no miro eso.
way too small, sir. I can't see that.
So
Rub it.
when someone was at the door, what did you do?
Y cuando alguien llegó a la puerta, ¿qué hizo usted?
Abrí la puerta.
Ay.
Primero pregunté quién es.
I opened the door. Well, no, excuse me. First I asked, who is it?
¿Quién es?
Who is it?
All right,
Y
you
me dijo, soy el policía de Los Ángeles.
And he said, I am Los Angeles Police.
and could you
I
see?
am a policeman from Los Angeles.
All right. And could you see this person at that point?
¿Usted podía ver a esta persona en esos momentos?
Entonces abrí la puerta.
Then I opened the door.
All right. When you opened the door, what did you see, if anything?
Pero cuando usted abrió la puerta,
Did
¿qué
you see a male or a female?
vio usted? ¿Vio si vio algo, una mujer o un hombre?
Oh my
hombre.
God, that is so
Amigo.
cool.
And at that point, did you have some conversation with this person?
Y en ese momento usted habló con esta persona.
Él me dijo, soy el detective Mark Freeman.
He told me I'm Detective Mike Furman.
Y me enseñó
Well,
una...
just a moment. Did he say what? Could you say that name again?
¿Puede
Ay,
decir
yo
ese
no lo puedo
nombre otra
pronunciar
vez?
muy bien,
I can't pronounce it very well.
pero
Alright.
usted lo pronuncia
Él-
mejor que yo.
You can pronounce it better than I can.
You answer your
Maybe put this
question.
monitor.
You answer it. You know the answer. Answer it for me. Everybody knows it's Mark. You don't have to take a sidebar for this. Come on. Unbelievable. There goes blood pressure.
Madam Reporter, you ready? All right, thank you, counsel. Mrs. Lopez, when this police officer identified himself to you, can you tell me what name he gave you?
¿Podría usted decirme?
We all heard her just say Mark Furman. It was the interpreter that said Mike. Why don't you just tell the interpreter to do her job? No, just kidding. The interpreter is doing a fantastic job. Completely.
¿El nombre que él le dio a usted? ¿Qué nombre le dijo a usted?
Me dijo Mark Freeman.
He told me Mark Freeman.
All right,
And
Thank you.
the day before, it wasn't that bad.
And
They-
what did he say to you after he said his name is Mark Fairman?
¿Y qué le dijo?
Oh,
Yeah.
Le dijo a
Ms.
usted.
Clark?
And Ms. Lewis in this situation, they both object.
Yeah, I'm whispering his ear.
There's objection on mistake.
Doesn't look terrific. Mr. Cochran, would you continue, please?
Thank you, Ray County. What did this individual say to you after that, ma'am?
¿Y qué le dijo este individuo a usted después
Thanks,
de eso,
Jen.
señora?
Se identificó con una plaquita.
He identified with a small plaque.
Not responsive, Your Honor.
Oh, it's not responsive. It's responsive.
Overruled.
He identified with what?
Con
Se
una,
identificó
con
con
una,
una ¿qué?
con una cosa, se identificó con algo en las manos. Yo no,
With
Badge,
a
badge,
thing.
badge.
He identified with himself with something in his hand.
Was it a badge?
Era
Yes.
como una insignia.
sí.
Yes.
That was leading.
Well, I'm trying to understand what it was, Your Honor.
You know, come
No, you said,
on.
was it a badge? You
All
can
right,
ask,
you
can
You
you
know,
describe what
come
it was?
on.
Get straight.
It's stricken, but I know what the next question and answer is going to
Will
be.
you describe what it was he had in his hand?
¿Puede describir usted lo que él te llevaba en las manos?
Como una plaquita,
It was
Como
like a little,
como como cuando uno tiene la licencia y maneja una cosita. Si yo no, yo me
like when one has a driver's license, like something like that.
It wasn't a badge.
Your Honor,
Yes,
interpreter's comment.
yes.
When she said a little plaquita, perhaps I should have interpreted a badge instead of a small.
You're okay, sweetie. You're doing great.
Well,
Can you-
plaquita, I heard the witness say plaquita, and we can invite Dr. Reinoff from UCLA to tell us what a plaquita is. Thank you. We'll proceed.
Yep, we're gonna
Can
need
you
an
describe
expert
this
witness.
plaquita anymore?
We need an expert witness to know whether she meant that or not. Maybe they should put a whole bunch of objects in a picture lineup for her and let her pick out which one is a plaquita.
Or for us?
¿Puede usted describirnos qué quiere decir con esta plaquita? ¿Puede escribirnos más qué quiere decir con la plaquita?
Sí tenía su nombre.
That it had his name on it.
Do you have any pictures on it?
¿Tenía
Pictures.
fotos?
Yo no me fijé.
I didn't notice.
All right, and after that, tell us what happened after that.
¿Y qué pasó después de eso?
Como yo no lo mi- él, yo miro bien para afuera y él no me miraba bien para adentro.
Well, because I can see fine outside, but he could not see me well inside
And what happened?
Porque es
pasó?
una puerta de metal.
because it's a metal door.
All right, and then did something happen with regard to that?
Él,
Y,
él
y
me,
después algo
sí,
pasó con
él
la
me
puerta de
dijo,
metal. Yes,
señora o mujer,
he told me, lady or woman,
yo no le miro su cara.
I don't see your face.
And then what happened after that?
¿Y qué pasó después de eso?
Yo le dije, perdón,
I said, excuse me,
ahorita le abro la puerta.
I will open the door for you right now.
All right, and did you open the door at that point?
Y luego abrió la puerta en esos momentos.
Sí,
Yes.
And then after you opened the door, what happened then?
Y después de que le abrió la puerta, ¿qué pasó luego?
él me preguntó que si yo era la dueña de la casa.
He asked me if I was the owner of the house.
What did you respond?
¿Y qué le contestó usted?
Le dije, no.
I said no.
And then what happened after that?
¿Y qué pasó después de eso?
Dije, soy la housekeeper.
I said I'm the housekeeper.
Dice, ¿cómo te llamas?
And he said, what is your name?
And what did you say?
¿Y qué le dijo
Yo
usted?
le dije, Rosa López.
I said Rosa López.
All right, when you were talking to him, was he writing any of this down?
Y cuando usted estaba hablando con él estaba apuntando a estas cosas?
No.
No.
All right, after you gave him your name, what happened after that?
Y después de que usted le dio su nombre, ¿qué pasó después de eso?
Me pidió permiso para pasar al lado de atrás de la casa.
He asked me for permission to go to the back side of the house.
And can you look again at that monitor, or you might have to step down and show us, strike that. Did you give him permission to go to the back side of the house?
¿Y usted le dio permiso de entrar al traspatio?
Pues sí le di porque era la policía.
Yes, I did because it was the police.
And did he leave the door and go someplace at that point?
Y él se retiró de la puerta y se fue a otro lugar. En ese
Se fue
momento.
para atrás de la casa.
He went to the back of the house.
And with the back of the house, would that be the area in which you had walked the dog earlier in the evening in the rear portion of the Salinger's residence?
Y esa sería la misma área donde usted había caminado al perro anteriormente esa misma noche, anteriormente en la parte de atrás de la casa de los Salinger.
Sí.
Yes.
Did you go back there with this man at that point?
¿Usted se fue allá atrás con este hombre en esos momentos?
No.
No.
Do you know, if you know, was he with anyone else at this point, or was he by himself? You could tell.
Si usted sabe, él iba con alguien más o iba solo en esos momentos.
Iba con otra persona.
He was with another person.
Was that a male or a female?
Era hombre o mujer.
Hombre.
Male.
And where was this man who was with him?
¿Y quién era este hombre que iba con usted? Que iba con él, perdón.
O dijo que era otro policía.
He said it was another policeman.
And when you gave them permission to go in the backyard there, did they leave your sight at some point?
Y cuando usted le dio permiso de ir al traspatio ahí, ¿se perdieron de su vista en algún momento?
Sí, pues se fueron para atrás y yo no lo seguí.
Yes, well, they went to the back and I didn't follow them.
All right. And at some point thereafter, did they come back or have further conversation with you? You answer yes or no.
That's not leading.
Probation.
Y en algún momento después regresaron, después de ir allá atrás, regresaron.
Regresó el primer señor que me tocó la puerta.
The first man who knocked on my door came back.
All right. And did you have a further conversation with him at that point?
¿Y usted habló más con él en esos momentos?
Sí.
Yes.
Tell us what you said and what he said.
¿Podría decirnos qué dijo usted y
And
qué
what
dijo
she
él?
said.
Él me dijo muchas gracias.
He said, thank you very much.
En el momento ese le dije yo, me dijo, decirle a los jardineros
And at that time I said, and then he said to me, Tell the gardeners
cualquier cosa extraña que encuentren en el jardín, que no la toquen.
that if anything strange that they find in the yard or in, not to touch.
Call the police.
Call the police.
All right. Do you say anything else to you at that point?
Él le dijo algo más a usted en esos momentos.
Después de eso, cuando yo estaba muy, como miraba tanto policía y tanta cámara y tanta cosa, yo le pregunté, ¿qué pasa?
After that, because I had seen
See, this is why they shouldn't have done this out of order, because I don't know what time we're in. Is this okay? Is this the dog that was barking? This is near OJ's house, right? Not near Nicole's house. So this wasn't the same dog that we had 4 weeks of testimony on before. It's a different dog, right? Hi, John. And this is in the middle of the night. So was this like the morning, the early morning, after they discovered the body? I don't even know what's going on. Like,
since so many police officers and so many cameras and so many things, I asked what happened, what's happening.
so cameras the
Él
next
le
day.
dijo, algo horrible ha pasado al otro lado.
And he said something horrible has happened on the other side.
Yo le pregunté, ¿está Mr. Simpson muerto o herido?
And I asked him, is Mr. Simpson dead or wounded?
Y dice, no.
And he said no.
And then
Entonces,
what happened then?
yo
¿Qué
le
pasó
dije, me dijo, why?
And then I said, and then he said, why?
Porque anoche, muy noche, yo oí voces, oí hombres que platicaron
Because
al lado del jardín.
last night, very late, I heard voices. I heard men that were talking in the back of the yard.
You told this detective that?
¿Usted le dijo eso
Okay.
al detective?
That's the night that Nicole died. Voices in the backyard. I don't know about the dog. Let's forget about the dog for a second, because I don't think it means anything. Voices in the backyard that were men. So 2 means that at least 2. So if it was Furman planting the evidence, like people say, that he planted the glove, he would have had to been with someone else and loud about it, like talking loudly while he's planting evidence for a murder at someone's house. That doesn't make any sense. But stranger things have happened. The other is OJ wasn't alone, which I think we have some evidence that there was another person in there. Hi, Malta. I'm just trying to figure this out, because they took this witness out of order, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So she's saying that in the night of the murders at OJ's house, in the early hours of the morning, she heard some noises, she got scared, and then she heard men's voices. Men's. More than one.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you told him that, what did he say?
Y cuando usted le dijo eso a él, ¿qué dijo él?
Él me dijo que si había oído gritos de mujer o alguna mujer, voces de mujer.
And he asked me if I had heard a woman's screaming or screams of a woman and voices, women voices.
That doesn't make any sense. We are not at OJ's house. We are at Nicole's house. Somebody help me. I'm struggling big time. If it was a woman screaming, there would have been no woman screaming at OJ's house, right? Nothing happened there. So we are at Nicole's house. So the police asked to go into the neighbors of Nicole's house. So it was the same dog. Same dog. That makes sense. The police went to the backyard and told her to ask the gardeners if they find anything in the backyard to report it to the police. That does not make sense. We heard nothing of any kind of testimony that anything was anywhere near the backyard of Nicole's house. Nothing. OJ's house, yes. So OJ's house, backyard, dog, Nicole's house, woman screaming, Nicole's house, sounds in the middle of the night, OJ's house. Where the fuck are we? Where are we? Which house are we at?
And what did you say, if
¿Y qué
anything?
dijo usted?
Dije, no, eran hombres.
I said no, they were men.
Él me preguntó que si era la voz de Mr. Simpson.
And he asked me if it was Mr. Simpson's voice.
What did you say?
¿Y qué dijo
Yo le
usted?
dije, no, yo no sé.
I said no, I don't know.
And then what happened after that?
¿Y qué pasó después de eso?
Después de eso, él me dijo, más te vamos a mandar a la policía para que le des el testimonio a la policía.
And after that, he told me we are going to send the police so that you can give testimony to the police.
And after he told you that, did any police officer from the Los Angeles Police Department ever come out to interview you after that?
Y después de que le dijo eso a usted, ¿algún oficial de policía de Los Ángeles vino a hacerle alguna entrevista a usted después de eso?
Todavía los estoy esperando, digo.
No, I'm still waiting for them, tell him.
Now, this interview with Detective Mark Fairman, what time of morning was that, if you recall?
Esta entrevista con el detective Mark Furman, ¿a qué horas de la mañana fue eso? Si usted recuerda.
Como a las 8:30.
About 8:30.
That's on what date? Monday, June 13th?
¿Y eso fue en qué fecha? ¿El 13 de junio, día lunes?
El lunes 13 de junio.
June the 13th, on Monday.
And while you were having this conversation with
Okay, I know all that just happened, but I am 100% sure that this is OJ Simpson's neighbor's maid. So what they're saying all happened at OJ Simpson's house. So why would he ask if a woman was screaming at OJ Simpson's house? And what's it with the dog? Nobody's helping me. No, nobody's saying, no one's telling me what to think.
this gentleman, were the gardeners still there at that point?
Cuando usted estaba platicando con este caballero, ¿los jardineros todavía estaban ahí?
Sí.
Yes.
At any point while you were talking with this individual, did you ever see him write down any notes of any kind?
Cuando en algún momento que usted estaba platicando con este señor, él lo vio que él hacía apuntes en algún momento.
No apuntó nada.
He didn't write anything down.
Did you have any further conversation with him after he told you that someone would be coming to interview you from the Los Angeles Police Department?
Platicó más
Asked
con
and
él,
answered.
usted, después de que le dijo que iban a mandarle
Overruled.
más policías que iban a llegar otros policías a hablar con usted.
Ya no volvieron.
They never came back.
Now, you said that at some point you saw police officers in and around the Rockingham residence. Is that correct?
Usted atestiguó en algún momento que usted vio oficiales de policía cerca y alrededor de la calle de Rockingham, ¿verdad?
Había mucha policía.
There were a lot of police.
Were these like, can you describe these cars? Were they black and white cars?
¿Puede describir los carros? ¿Eran blanco y negro?
Sí, de los otros de un solo color también.
Yes, and then the other ones that are all one color too.
Now, did you ever have occasion on Monday, June 13th, to go out to Rockingham and see whether or not there were any vehicles parked out there at the curb at Rockingham near Mr. Simpson's home?
My gardener, my housekeeper, my maid, my nannies, my cooks, my hair doer, they can all tell you so much about me. Oh my God.
Usted tuvo la oportunidad de salir el lunes 13 de junio ahí en la calle Rockingham para ver si habían algunos vehículos estacionados ahí en la calle Rockingham cerca de la casa del señor Simpson.
Había muchos carros parqueados, sí.
There were many cars parked there, yes.
Did you see the Bronco at any time that day?
¿Usted vio el Bronco en algún momento ese día?
Ahí estaba parqueado todavía.
It was still parked right there.
You said it was still parked right there. If you were to look at the car's submission again, it's 62A, B, D, and E. And you saw the Bronco on June 13th, 1984. Was it parked in the same way that you'd seen it the night before, after 10 o'clock?
Las fotografías que está viendo ahí, las 62A, B, D y E,
I don't have crayons in my house.
um,
Can't be writing nothing.
que si usted vio que el Bronco
Kids will
que
draw
usted había
over the
visto
wall.
estacionado
Cats
ahí
will
el
draw all
día
over the wall.
13 de junio de 1994 estaba estacionado en la misma forma que usted lo había visto la noche anterior, como a las 10 de la noche.
Sí.
Yes.
Maybe put you on with your foot.
Sure. We are going to take our recess for the afternoon at this time. Ms. Lopez, we're not finished yet. Unfortunately, the other side still has to ask you questions. Mr. Cochran has not finished asking you questions. I'm going to order you to come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Mr. Cochran will make arrangements for you for the evening. Come back here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. All right? Thank you. All right, you may step down.
Mr. Lance,
Just-
¿le puedo decir algo, señor?
Don't
Can I
talk to
say
the
something?
judge.
Yo tengo mis tickets comprados para mañana a las 11 de la mañana.
I have my tickets purchased for tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning.
All right, we'll make sure that that gets changed.
Vamos a asegurarnos que eso cambie.
We'll make sure.
Gracias, muy amable. le
Thank
agradezco
you, very
mucho.
kind.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
That one
I
sentence
have
is
here
going to
Sylvia
take 3
Guerra,
days of testimony.
Guerra. Would the court kindly order her back for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
All right, Ms. Guerra, do you understand English, ma'am? All right, you're ordered to return here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am. All right,
Would you also order Ms. Lopez not to discuss her testimony with anyone except her lawyer and his agents?
yes, I forgot to advise you, Ms. Lopez, please don't discuss your testimony with any other person other than the attorneys in the case. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Poke away.
Contact or attempt to contact Ms.
No.
Guerra?
It's
I'm
not
going to poke him
necessary.
right now. Poke
All right.
him. If I remember how, I've been poking someone that's still
All right, Ms. Lopez, you may step down. Thank you very much, ma'am. And Mr. Cochran,
They
would you
still
find
have
out the
Nope.
travel arrangements? And we'll have to make adjustments for that and have my clerk make that adjustment for us. All right, let's have can we have Mr. Pavlik brought in, please? Yes. Ms. Hamburger, I'm going to order you to return tomorrow morning as well, 9 o'clock. All right, with client in tow. All right, thank you, Madam Interpreter. All right, Ms. Hamburger, do you want to escort your client out? Yes, Madam Interpreter, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Thank you. All right, can we have Mr. Pavlik, please? All right, Mr. Schuman, thank you.
We can find our increased dates to the statements and notes of Rosa Lopez, or
Well, that's what I'm most interested in at this point. Let's just keep the inquiry down to specifically what our 1335 that we're in the midst of right now, and we can move on to other things at another time. We only try to do 53 things at a time here. All right, Mr. Pavlik, good afternoon, sir. Would you come forward? Mr. Pavlik, my understanding is that you've been the investigator for the defense for the past several months, correct?
Since June 14th, yes, sir.
All right, are you aware of any statements that have been made or any reports or any notes regarding this witness, Rosa Lopez, other than the 2 statements that have been turned over?
Other than the 2 statements, no.
Yeah, I'd ask that these statements be made under oath. He's not an officer of the court.
Well, he is here making representations to me. Do you have a license as a private investigator?
I
I just
work
poked him.
under a private investigator's license.
All right, then I'll have to have him put under oath then.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause testimony before this court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state so your first and last name for the record.
No, you can stay right there. Mr. Pavlik, you can just stay right there.
I just poked you.
William George
You poked someone
Pavlik,
back.
P as in Paul, A, V as in Victor, E-L-I-C as in Charles.
All right, with regards to the witness Rosa Lopez, my understanding is that you conducted 2 interviews of her.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we now have reports that are dated July 29th and what is it, August the 18th?
That's about right. Yes, sir.
All right, are there any other notes with regards to interviews of Rosa Lopez?
She just said, guys, come on, please. No, didn't Rosa Lopez just say no one interviewed her at all since Mark Furman left her door that day? No one has interviewed her. Didn't she say that? And the judge just asked him if he interviewed her twice, right?
When you say notes, I'm not sure what you
Any
mean.
rough notes, anything you wrote down, anything handwritten?
I may possibly have some notes in regards to the statement that I took.
All right, do you have any tape recordings of any statements?
I tape recorded the first statement, which was the July statement.
All right. All right, Mr. Pavlik, where are these items, these notes and tape recordings?
I believe that it's either in the office or at my residence when
All right. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to order you to come to court with those items.
I
Somebody
shall do
answers
my
me.
best to get those items.
Thank you.
All
You're
right, no,
right.
don't do your
That's a
best. Have
lawyer.
them here tomorrow.
You're right.
I shall have
That
them here
makes sense.
tomorrow, Your
All right,
Honor.
thank you. Tomorrow
You're
morning, 9 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
All right, counsel, we will stand in recess. We'll take this matter up at 9 o'clock. All right,
Darden
thank
has
you all.
just looked pissed since he got in trouble.
Mr. Darden, Ms.
He's
Lewis.
not looked okay.
The
since
jury
that day.
is not present. Counsel, earlier this morning, court directed the defense to provide the court and the prosecution counsel a copy of the audio tape of an interview of witness Rosa Lopez. And the court has received a micro cassette tape, which I'm going to mark Court's Exhibit next in order. Court's Exhibit 4. And both sides have been provided with a standard cassette copy of this interview. Record should also reflect that moments ago, counsel for both sides and the court in chambers listened to the tape recording of this particular interview. All right, any comment before we proceed with the direct examination of Rosa Lopez on the 1335 conditional examination?
Speak up. I hate saying that to him.
All right, is Mr. Pavlik outside? All right, Mr. Kardashian, would you ask him to join us, please?
Hey, Mr. Kardashian is doing something useful, guys. What a great lawyer. Oh my God. I remember micro cassette tapes. They were sneaky. Yep.
All right,
Yep.
Mr. Pavlik was again before the court. Mr. Pavlik, you're reminded you're still under oath. Mr. Pavlik, you can just stand right there at the. All right, Mr. Pavlik, yesterday afternoon, you advised the court that there was that you tape recorded the first
Kids make great
statement,
movies.
which was July, and you indicated that there were notes with regards to this. What is the status of those notes?
I believe that I indicated that I would check and see whether or not I have any notes, not only pertaining to the issue at hand, but other notes. Whenever I took a statement and reduced it to a memo, I would destroy the notes that I would take at the scene, over the phone, or in person.
So you've examined your office and your residence, and you have no rough notes with regards to any of the statements that you've taken with regard to this case?
That is correct, sir. Anything and everything that I had, I would fax to various attorneys, and I do not have any notes pertaining to any of the interviews.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pavlik.
Thanks for nothing, sir.
Mr. Pavlik, when were those notes destroyed?
They would have been destroyed on the same day that I put out the memo.
Did the court please inquire, because it's habit and custom always to destroy notes as soon as the memo was completed, that why you represented the court yesterday, that you thought he had notes?
Mr. Pavlik?
I have saved one note from an interview that I conducted with Mr. Ernesto Rivas and Scott Matsuda. And the only reason that I saved those notes, the original notes, is because I had some streets, addresses, position of police vehicles that were present on Bundy on June 13, 1994.
And those are the only notes that you kept?
Those are the only notes that I kept.
All right.
Did the court also inquire why it was that Mr. Pavlik did not remember what his habit and custom was yesterday? And now he remembers?
There is a discrepancy, Mr. Pavlik. Can you explain that?
I believe that if you look at my testimony yesterday, that I was not only referring to this particular instance involving Rosa Lopez, but all notes. And I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to review the file that I had to make sure that there are no notes. I did so in good faith, and I did not find any.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pavlik.
Vern, could you ask one other question? Guessing whether or not he told anybody all about this takeover.
It's irrelevant.
Well, Mr. Pavlik, when did you first tell any counsel for the defense that this tape was in existence?
When I saw the testimony of Mr. Carl Douglas yesterday, it was obvious to me that I did not inform him of the tape, nor did I inform any of the other attorneys. That was the only time that I was involved in any tape recording, taking a statement that was tape recorded. I immediately completed a report in regards to the interview. I submitted my memo to the attorneys, and I put the tape along with 200 or 300 other tapes that I had, most of them, if not all of them, provided by the prosecution.
Perhaps the court can inquire whether counsel ever asked Mr. Pavlik if he had tapes or notes.
Did you hear the question, Mr. Pavlik?
Yes, I did, sir. I don't specifically recall being asked about a tape. I had been informed and asked regarding the statements and notes that I kept or that I did in this particular investigation. My response was that I have always submitted my memos in a timely manner, and that I didn't have anything other than what I submitted.
Then his statement to the court today is that no one ever asked him if he had any tapes.
Is that correct?
I said, I don't recall. I am not saying that I was not asked that. I just do not recall, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Clark, at this point, I think we'll visit the further discovery issues at a later time, as I suggested. All right, thank you, Mr. Pavlik.
Thank you.
Can we just ask, the court to ask Mr. Pavlik one more question, please?
Which is?
Does he have any notes on a computer that were put on the computer, and where is the rest of the interview of Rosa Lopez?
Do you understand the question?
No, I do not understand the question.
Do you have any of these interviews currently held within any memory function of any computer?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
All right.
With regard to Court's Exhibit 4, the tape the court just marked, would the court inquire of Mr. Pavlik if that is the original cassette tape or is it a copy?
That is the original cassette tape from the interview that I conducted on July 29th, 1994.
All right. Now, you indicated that there are a number of tape recordings that you turned over just recently. You said the majority of which were prosecution provided originally by the prosecution, correct?
I said majority, if not all. Let me qualify that. I believe all of those tapes are tapes that we received as part of discovery disclosure from the prosecution.
So as far as you know, this is the only tape recording that you have in your possession that concerns any of the witnesses in this case?
This is the only tape recording that I have in my possession, sir, pertaining to any of the witnesses.
Yeah, there's still the issue of the August 18 interview with Rosa Lopez, for which we obviously have no tape. And would the court inquire of Mr. Pavlik if you take that interview, or was it in fact a second interview, or was it some redaction of an
Well,
earlier interview?
Yes. Mr. Pavlik, did you tape record it?
The only
Are there
reason,
any
Your
notes?
Honor, I tape recorded Ms. Lopez in the first interview is because it was a one-on-one. I did not have a partner with me, and that is the reason why I tape recorded. At the second interview, if you would look at the statement or the memo, Mr. John McNally was present with me, and there was no need for me to tape record her.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Pavlik.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Clark? Certainly.
Yes, Your Honor. The court has heard the tape and has heard the nature of the interview conducted. I have never heard anything like that. I have never heard a witness basically coached and told what to say through every bend and turn. Ms. Lopez gave very little input into that interview. Basically, it's an interview of Mr. Pavlik. And
Ms.
this,
Hamburger, would you and your client step out? I just noticed that you're back there at the back row. Thank you. Ms. Clark?
thank you, Your Honor. There are a number of inconsistencies in that taped interview. Not the least of which is the fact that Sylvia, who is mentioned in the written statement of July 29th, is never mentioned in the actual interview that we have all listened to. Furthermore, the fact that there's a conversation that Ms. Lopez alludes to, having overheard at 10 o'clock between the defendant and some other person, that never appeared in her direct testimony. That's just two of many glaring inconsistencies, even though the direct testimony has gone far past the point of 10 o'clock now. And I'll be very interested to hear if Mr. Cochran now goes back to that point and tries to clear all that up. But nevertheless, we need to have this tape transcribed and examined, because we are now we're put in the posture by the defense arrogance, by their contempt for the court's authority and the court's order. We are put in the posture now of having a substantial body of impeachment to do that we must do with Rosa Lopez, that we must confront her with on this conditional examination. And we have to be prepared for it, because the defense has assured us that she will be gone. I've assured the court that she will be gone only if the defense wants her to be gone. Nevertheless, after I think we conclude cross-examination, they will conclude they want her to be gone. We therefore need to prepare.
They have her in an impossible situation, and it's bullshit. Like, this can't be legal. Absolutely cannot be legal. What is happening right now? The defense is just on this is
For cross-examination, and we cannot effectively cross-examine her to the extent that is required so that the jury will get the full measure of her lack of credibility unless we are given the opportunity to prepare, the opportunity that the defense has contemptuously refused to allow us. I find this unbelievable, what I have seen.
there is absolutely no way one sentence of Rosa Lopez's testimony should be allowed in this trial. There's no way. There's no legal way that she should be allowed in this trial. Maybe the slightest maybe. Later, when it's their turn, when it's the defense's turn, maybe. And if she's gone, whatever. But right now, I mean, this is so wrong.
And to hear this tape was just, I'm speechless. I'm speechless to think that I'm speechless. I know, that tells you something. I've never seen anything like this. You know, I mean, she was handed a script and Mr. Pavlik got on the tape and spoke almost nonstop for 15 to 20 minutes, getting her to affirm, yes, 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 yes. No on very minor, inconsequential matters, and I might add, all in English. During no time did she indicate she couldn't understand anything. At no time did she tell him to slow down or explain anything.
Mad.
She
I'm
corrected
so
him
mad
on
right
minor
now.
matters of no significance, but therefore indicating that she understood very well what he had to say to her in English, and he spoke rapidly.
Ms. Clark, whether or not a witness feels more comfortable in their native language or English when they actually testify here in court under
Judge,
these
move on to the big
rather
pieces.
trying circumstances is a factor that is of no consequence at this point.
Neither are any
The
of these
question
words you're
is, now
saying.
that you have the tape, you've heard it once up in your office, you heard it once with the court here in chambers with opposing counsel. The tape is approximately 12 or 15 minutes in length. I don't know that you need an exact word-for-word transcript for 770 purposes. How much time do you need to prepare to review this and to prepare your notes and be able to
7
confront Ms.
months.
Lopez with these items on cross-examination?
You better overestimate, dear.
In order to adequately confront and cross-examine Ms. Lopez, we need to confront her with each and every leading question that she was asked. And as the court heard, there's a tape full of them. We need to be able to confront her with each and every one of those. So those need to be transcribed in order to confront her adequately. What we're talking about here is the people's right to confront and cross-examine that's being denied by the defense misconduct. So we need a chance to prepare for this.
Judge
And so
asked
we
you
do
how
need a
long?
transcript of this in order to adequately confront her.
How long?
And let her answer for us what her real thought was. Let's not forget also that there were notes taken of this interview, notes that would have been very impeaching, I am sure, notes that probably preceded this interview that had to do with what she really had to say before she was coached into saying what the defense wanted to hear. And now Mr. Pavlik, who yesterday told the court that he had notes of her interview, comes to court today and has the nerve to tell this court that he has a habit and custom of destroying all notes, a habit and custom that he conveniently didn't mention until this morning. There is very little credibility to Mr. Pavlik's assertions, and so we don't have the additional material we should have.
Let's refocus on where we are. We are in the midst of direct examination during a conditional examination. You have now been given a tape recording, which is the companion of the report that you have from the July 29th statement.
But it's not a companion because it is
No,
so different.
No, Ms. Clark, it's a companion because it's the same date. I'm not editorializing or forming an opinion. I'm just saying that the two go together. So you have both items.
Well, the report, let me put it this way, Your Honor. The July 29th report says the July 29th, but.
Ms. Clark, please. It's a very simple question. How much time do you need to prepare and review this tape to proceed with your cross-examination.
Judge Ito's right.
Well, Mr. Cochran's indicated that he's got a few minutes left on direct, right?
Correct.
So he's almost done.
Correct.
That means we're confronting the issue of our cross-examination right away.
Correct. But I assume that this tape and this particular statement is not the sole basis of your cross-examination.
No, but it's substantial, especially the inconsistencies between the written statement and the tape, and the inconsistencies between those two and the third statement on August 18th, and the inconsistencies between those three items and her testimony as given in court yesterday, and what will be the balance of whatever she gives today.
You shouldn't be
So
allowed.
there's,
Bye.
yes, the tape plays a very focal part in all of that, Your Honor. We have now added a body of impeachment evidence, and we need to get it transcribed so we can confront her properly with it for 770
said
purposes.
already.
And
How
so we need a
long?
stenographer. We're going to need the afternoon to do that. I can appreciate the court's concern in the time factor, but don't look at us, Your Honor. You know, we didn't put the court in this position.
Oh,
We
Ms. Clark,
didn't.
believe me, I'm not putting the onus on you at this point. I'm just asking you a very simple question. How much time do you need? Knowing that I've got a sequestered jury that was brought to court yesterday and spent their whole day here and got to go home.
I'm mindful of that, Your Honor. Had the defense not denied us the opportunity to get the discovery
No, I
the court
understand that.
ordered,
Okay. Well, the longer we stand here talking about it, the longer it'll be before we accomplish all this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order all parties return. I'm sorry,
Sit
Sure, Mr.
down.
Cochran, I'm sorry. Forgot to ask the other side.
God, yeah.
Mr. Cochran.
Just briefly, Your Honor, with regard to the record should reflect, and without editorializing and getting into it, the tape was turned over by Mr. Pavlik. They had the tape this morning by 9:30. It's a 12-minute tape. They've heard, we had from 9:30 till about 11:15. They didn't do anything with it. Whatever time they need, Your Honor, it
Well, the
seems to me.
difficulty has been in getting it copied is what the
Well,
difficulty is.
but they
They
were
were
able to listen to the
in
tape. Your Honor.
trial.
The tape is very, very simple and to the point. Obviously, they don't like the contents of the tape. This tape is an actual tape of the conversation. The memo that was submitted to them for the 29th and the 18th are memos that were sent to Bob Shapiro. So whatever they need to do, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed and go on without all the editorializing. The tape will speak for itself as to whether this witness is consistent. We think she's entirely
No,
consistent. We
that's
think
not
that the
how it
fact that, as you
works.
pointed out, the interview was conducted in
Now, yeah, Your Honor, we're gonna show the jury this tape with him coaching her the whole time, and it'll speak for itself. We'll just let the jury, figure out what leading questions might be and what's legal.
in English, and she speaks Spanish as a primary tongue. That'll go perhaps to the weight. But the point I wanted to make was that all of this floor showing for the cameras and all these allegations, Your Honor, I want to remind the court of one thing without wasting your time. When the thing came up about Scott Kennedy's video, and we needed it right during the trial, and they'd had it since June. We didn't go running, crying to you, saying, Judge, they have this.
What in God's name does that have to do with right now? Right here, right now, nothing.
This June, hold them, do all these bad things to them. What we did was say, we want that tape. I set about to get it. They came and produced it after I'd gotten it from Mr. Scott Kennedy. We proceeded with the evidence, continued with this trial. We want to go on with the trial, Judge. That's one side wants to go on with the trial. One side always wants to delay and have a stop, and they're always
he's
crying
a
and complaining. Now,
slime ball.
they're entitled to this,
Oh my
and they've
God.
got it. You've had Pavlik under oath, and that's the situation. None of us knew about this tape, and that's the situation. We're going to deal with the other discovery issues, I think, tomorrow afternoon. I would like to try to complete my direct examination, and I'd like to have them proceed with their cross, however long it's going to take, Your Honor. That's all we're asking to do. We have the lunch hour to try to let them listen to the tape again and again. It's only 12 minutes or so, Your Honor. You've heard it. We can proceed, it seems to me. They've got all the direct examination. It's not going to cause a problem. They're not going to transcribe the tape. So we got all the direct examination from yesterday. We've got the direct examination. They've got the two reports from the 29th and the 18th. And then they've got the tape, which can, of course, be transcribed by the time they get to that, Your Honor. We just like to be able to proceed if at all possible.
All right. Thank you. All right, counsel, I'm going to direct all parties to return here at 2:00. Ms. Clark, I'd like you to make your best efforts to go over the tape. I don't think you need a word-for-word transcript to proceed for 770 purposes. I think what you can do is listen to the tape, take down what the answer is, just write down what the answers are, and the ones that you find are inconsistent, But let's see what you can do between now and 2 o'clock. And in the meantime, I assume that you're going to have one of your staff members attempt, one of your
Judge, that's
stenographers
just
attempt to make the
illegal what
transcript
you're
correct.
doing. It's just not
We'll
right.
do our best, Your Honor. I mean, that's difficult, but it's not because it's not the answers are simple. They're yes and no. Actually, they're all yes. So we need to transcribe the questions.
No, I understand, but I'm asking you to do your best because I want to proceed this afternoon, if at all possible.
We will do our best.
All right, we'll stand in recess 2 o'clock. Thank you, counsel.
I know this is a great point to stop, but I'm going to go for a little
My
longer.
apologies for the
Just
delay.
a
I was
little
just putting
longer.
the finishing touches on the court's copy of the transcript of the tape. I said I was just putting the finishing touches on the court's transcription of the tape. All right, what's our progress, Ms. Clark?
I would like to indicate to the court that over the noon hour, as soon as we sent the tape over to be transcribed, I listened to an additional copy of it. And there was more material in the tape than I realized even in the first two listenings. And I want to indicate to the court that I was very angry earlier this morning, but I meant no disrespect to the court. I hope the court understands that.
I meant
my ire is
disrespect to
directed
you.
towards the defense
I did.
only, and I meant
No, I
No
never
offense.
took your umbrage as directed towards me, certainly.
no, certainly not.
Mine is
I just wanted
directed
to
towards
make
you,
absolutely
Eno.
sure that if there was any misunderstanding there, I wanted to clear that up. But upon reviewing the statements,
Yeah, in fact, before we proceed any further, let me give to Mr. Darden, would you approach, and Mr. Shapiro, let me give you a transcript of the tape recording that I prepared over the lunch hour.
and our transcript should be prepared in half an hour as well, so we'll have lots of transcripts.
I
But
think you'll like mine.
you think we'll like it? I'm sure we will. I wanted to point out to the court that in addition to this tape itself, which now the internal inconsistencies, as well as the inconsistencies with each statement, as well as the inconsistencies with her direct testimony, and the inconsistencies with other witnesses who will testify in this case, are numerous, are glaring, and are of major significance to her testimony and her credibility. And so we find ourselves basically placed behind the eight ball by the machinations of the defense and unable to proceed with effective cross-examination this afternoon. As the court is aware, having been a trial attorney for quite some time, when you have this number of statements by a key witness, it is important to track each and every inconsistency, both logical and literal, in order to, in effect, create a flow chart so that the confrontation with the inconsistencies can be effective and clear. And because the defense has put us in this position, we are now being essentially rushed into a cross-examination that is going to be half as effective as it should have been had they complied with the law.
In other words, you mean you feel you've been sandbagged again?
Well, we have. I don't feel it. We clearly have.
Yeah,
And by this
definitely.
third time,
Absolutely.
the tactic of
Frequently.
delay is clearly to gain advantage, and there can be no doubt of it being anything like inadvertence. So I would like to offer the court this as a sanction, because I know we won't address that actually until tomorrow, but this sanction could be actually adopted by the court today. As a sanction, the people ask the court to terminate the conditional examination. Because on the very thinnest of records, the court generously granted the defense request to have this conditional examination pursuant to Penal Code Section 1335. The defense has not only abused the
agree.
generosity that the court has given it, but it has shown contempt for the direct order of the court concerning discovery matters. Not once, but 3 times now. And these are not trivial matters. These are not matters of form. This is not a question of a couple weeks too late. This is not a question of impeachment on a trivial or peripheral matter. This is key impeachment evidence on a key defense witness deliberately withheld for 8 months and denied being in the possession of the defense until we required the investigator to testify under oath, whose testimony, I might add, under oath, as the court has seen, is suspiciously inconsistent on important key points. Because of the egregiousness of these violations that go to the very heart of the defense case, the people are asking the court to terminate the conditional examination and to consider that if the people had engaged in such gross misconduct even once, what would the court have done? The court would seriously consider, I'm sure, the sanction of preclusion of the witness's testimony at all. And the court would be well justified in doing that. In this particular case, the people do not request that sanction because we feel that we would be prejudiced by that as well. The people want the jury to hear from Rosa Lopez, especially with the wealth of rebuttal material that we have. But I think the court should seriously consider terminating its generous offer to the defense of a conditional examination and require the witness to testify in order as all others in the presence of the jury in the defense case where she belongs.
Let me ask you this then. Since you raised the possibility, you suggest that the prosecution wants Ms. Lopez to testify before the jury, and that you have a wealth of impeachment evidence available to you, then shouldn't we then proceed with her in front of the jury?
That is exactly the point. We need time. We need time to organize and collate everything.
Then I misunderstood when you say we have a wealth of impeachment. I thought that meant that you had analyzed that, had evaluated, and were prepared to go forward with it.
Well, no, Your Honor, and the court raises an excellent point. It's not enough to simply read a statement of a witness that will impeach the defense witness. One has to assimilate it. One has to determine its significance and what are the key points and winnow the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. You can't just read a report and then be prepared to use it against a witness in cross-examination, as the court knows well. Cross-examination requires very careful strategy and tactical considerations that preclude a mere reading of a report and its use on cross-examination. And especially with a number of inconsistent statements this witness has, we have a great deal of work to do to impeach her. In essence, all we're really asking for is the very minimum sanction or the minimum grant of a continuance, which is the general posture we're in when a discovery violation has occurred. Now, this is a very blatant and egregious, I think the most egregious I've ever seen in my practice, violation of the law by a defense attorney. And although we could ask for witness preclusion, we haven't asked for that, and we will not ask for that. But we do ask that the court terminate. Could we ask Ms. Lopez to wait outside?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you had already stepped out once before.
She did, she came back in.
All right. Ms. Clark?
Thank you. We are not asking for the preclusion. What we are asking for is that that the conditional examination be terminated and that she be called in the defense case if and when they decide to call her, at which point we will have had the time to prepare for her testimony. Exactly the same kind of time that the defense demanded with respect to some very trivial witnesses. They demanded 6 weeks to investigate and prepare for those witnesses.
They did, didn't
All we
they?
are asking is that the witness be placed back into the defense case where it belongs, in front of the jury, which will give us the time to assimilate and organize a cross-examination that will be effective
Thank you,
and
Michael.
will protect the rights of the people to a fair trial. I think that the court has seen an
Tuesday's as
abuse
good
of
as
its
any.
generosity, an abuse of its patience, and an abuse of the integrity it afforded to the defense. It is no longer justified. Their
I
conduct,
have
their
no idea
misconduct
why
has
I'm
become
so
so
angry,
egregious
but
that I think
this
that the
makes
court
me
has to
so
now
mad.
review its past generosity with the defense. At this point in time, the court is aware of all of the contradictions concerning this witness's availability and her willingness to come to court. And I think that the control that the defense has over her is manifest. If for no other reason, the leading nature of the statements given by the witness in the interview that was basically nothing more than a coaching session by Mr. Pavlik.
You know what pisses me off the most, the absolute most right now? Those $1 million attorneys are just sitting there waiting for her to shut up because it doesn't matter what she says. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter what she says.
Indicates the degree of control they have over this witness. She will appear when they want her to. She doesn't want to go back to Salvador. And it's very, very clear that if she is placed back into the defense case, there will be no risk suffered. The only way Ms. Lopez will not appear is if the defense desires not to have her appear. The people want to see her appear, but in the appropriate time. I would indicate to the court that just on listening to the tape today, and realize, Your Honor, that we have tripled the number of statements this witness gave in 24 hours. And the court is asking us to be prepared to cross-examine with what is going to amount to a tripling of the cross-examination of this witness, not to mention the significance that has now been brought to bear on previous witnesses that we've spoken to that had no significance before, such as the Sylvia issue. This is a glaring one. We had a tip concerning Ms. Lopez from someone named Sylvia. When we went to speak to her, we had no idea of the significance of that witness because we were not given the July 29th statement. We had no idea that Rosa Lopez was claiming to have been with that witness and that witness would corroborate her observation of the Bronco at 8:30, which is a significant portion of her testimony. Only yesterday did we find out that they are one and the same and that there were allegations made concerning what Sylvia would testify to, which are false and provably false. So that is the problem with withholding of discovery. Now we have information and there are witnesses that are engendered by the late discovery that have to be interviewed, statements have to be generated, and they have to be collated and placed in the appropriate place in the cross-examination, which I assure the court will be lengthy. We need the time to adequately prepare for cross-examination that we have been deprived of by
Okay,
the defense.
that made him mad.
And the defense getting up to urge the court to cut off our time in the manner that they have done this morning is reprehensible because it is their misconduct that has put us in this position. We have to be able to effectively cross-examine in order to give the jury the truth. And what the defense is trying to do is curtail the search for the truth, is to cut off the jury's knowledge of this witness and to give them half a loaf so that all they can see is the side the defense wants to present and not to see the side that basically negates everything she says. As we all know, I mean, you can hear one side, and basically the one side we're hearing is Mr. Pavlik talking, and then you hear what this witness really has to say, and it's shocking. But this is a shocking truth that the jury needs to hear and will not hear effectively if the people are denied the right to prepare their cross-examination in a cohesive manner and present it in the most effective manner possible. We're talking about nothing less important here than the people's right to a fair trial and to an effective and intelligent search for the truth, instead of the obscuring nature and distorting nature of the truth that has been given to this jury by the defense, and which the defense desires to propound further via the testimony of Rosa Lopez and the curtailment of the people's cross-examination.
How much time are you asking for to prepare?
We are asking to present cross-examination on Friday.
7 weeks.
Assuming the court denies the request to terminate the conditional examination.
I'm just curious as to how long you think you need to prepare.
I mean, that's a minimum. That's rushing it.
Today being the 28th. Okay. All right, any other comments, Ms. Glenn?
All right, stand up at jackass. Let's go. Let's hear what you have to say.
Certainly.
You don't need a moment. You did fine. Just sit down. Ito already made his mind up. It doesn't matter what you say.
Mr. Cochran?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Your Honor, in this instance, it is very interesting to hear Ms. Clark again use all of these terms, and she talks about truth and all that sort of thing. Your Honor, yesterday she stood before you as an officer of this court and indicated to the court that there was a significant difference in the July 29th statement, that she told you that there was no mention that the Bronco had been at the curb at 8:30 and still in the morning. She specifically said that. Absolutely, is what she said, Your Honor. And I want to read something. Ms. Lopez stated that the last time she heard OJ talking was at approximately 11 o'clock hours. She's
Ms.
adamant
Lopez is a
that from
liar.
the moment she first observed the Bronco at approximately 8:30 hours until the following day, the Bronco was not moved. Now, in her haste to castigate yesterday, exactly what she said. She said there was the major difference between
If you would, please don't interrupt, Counsel.
the major difference between the August 18th statement and the July 29th statement was the fact she had mentioned it, saying that was going to be some great impeachment. I point this out.
Mr. Cochran, let me focus you on what concerns me. And forgive me for interrupting you, but the problem we have, though, is we started the proceedings yesterday with Mr. Douglas telling me that there were no notes and no tape recordings of any of these statements. That statement was echoed by yourself to this court when you said there are no notes and no tape recording. We find out at the conclusion of yesterday, there may be notes and there certainly is a tape recording. So the reason we're here and having this delay is because of the late disclosure of this tape recording. So any differences or subtleties between the two statements or the written statements are interesting. Whether or not they're as significant as Ms. Clark said, I don't know. The reason we're in this difficulty, though, is because of this belated disclosure of this tape recording. That's why we have the problem and the delay.
Yes, and may I address that, Your Honor?
Please.
The point I was trying to make, and I appreciate the court's indulgence, but it's very difficult to have somebody stand up and make these bald-faced accusations that are absolutely wrong, and everybody knows they're wrong. So I felt at least compelled, at least for my client, to address that. But I will focus as the court has asked me to do in that regard. Your Honor, when Mr. Douglas stood up yesterday and indicated to this court, as an officer of this court, that there was no tape recording as far as he knew, he was being absolutely honest, and neither did I know. And if we knew about the tape recording, we would have absolutely had it present. If we knew about the other report, we are the ones, if the court pleases, who brought to Your Honor's attention yesterday morning that the statement that I was working from, July 29th statement, was different from the August 18th statement. As I've indicated, that this was a chore that Mr. Douglas inherited after the first of this year. When we brought that to Your Honor's attention, he said we had to make disclosure. We did that. When Mr. Pavlik came down and said he discovered this tape, we said, obviously, tell the court that. We did not know that. He told you this morning under oath, he had not told us that. And
let me tell you what concerns me about Mr. Pavlik. When I first asked him,
are
there any tape recordings or notes? He said these are the only two statements.
They've lied so much about everything that they can just continue to lie because zero people understand what the truth is now because it's been so lied about. This is a courtroom.
Then at Ms. Clark's urging and with some reluctance by the court, I put him under oath and I got a different answer.
I was here and my interpretation was this, Your Honor. He indicated these are the only two statements, but then Your Honor asked him a different question. Your Honor asked him when he was under oath, are there any, let me complete, Your Honor. Yeah, I think the indication was, are there any tape recordings? If you'll look at that, I think that's my recollection. And he said, yes, there is. And we were just as shocked as you were at that point. I think that was the point that he indicated. I think if you look at that, that's my recollection of it.
You're just a liar. You're just a liar.
So you ask him some question about any other
An imprecise question by the court. A great failing of mine.
Well, I'd like to, can we look at it, Your Honor? Because I haven't looked at that. I think that.
Court's question was, all right, are you aware of any statements that have been made or any reports or any notes regarding this witness, Rosa Lopez, other than the two statements that have been turned over? Mr. Pavlik, other than the two statements, no. Then Ms. Clark asked me to place him under oath. Blah, blah, blah. Then I asked him directly, do you have any tape recordings of any statements? And then Mr. Pavlik, I tape recorded the first statement, which was the July statement.
That's what you said. That was my total recollection. That's exactly what you'd ask and what you did. Now, you can defer different things with regard to that.
It was not in the spirit of what I asked him.
Well, you know, I'm not standing up here now to address what Mr. Pavlik did. We all saw and heard what he said. We were surprised. Now, you can imagine that I wasn't particularly pleased either with hearing Mr. Pavlik had a tape statement.
You told him to say that, you asshole.
Witness had never ever seen or heard.
Right,
I wasn't particularly happy about that, Your Honor.
Mr. Cochran, where we are right now is we're in the middle of a 1335 direct examination by yourself, with the prosecution saying because of this late disclosure, we need additional time to prepare for cross-examination. Do you find that to be an unreasonable position by the people?
Yes, I do. And that's I'd like to address.
And why is that?
Absolutely. First of all, we have very experienced lawyers on the other side. You know, they have known about the original statement since September 1st, when Sarah Kaplan and Jerry Ullman turned over all the documents. They've known about Rosa Lopez since that time. For instance, they talk about this clue that led them to Sylvia. Ms. Lopez, we'd indicated that to the court. We never received anything about this clue. And basically, Your Honor, they've known about this. And to show you the power of the prosecution and to talk about their efforts at intimidation, they have the silent and an additional examination. They have her employers sitting here in court yesterday. And what does that say to people all across America who you want to be fair about something? They can't be called in a conditional examination. Why do you think they were here? Then at the end of the day, Mr. Darden says, Your Honor, I want to have a witness ordered back during the conditional examination of Rosa Lopez. They then bring in this Sylvia. So in one day, they have all of the witnesses here. And then they would stand here and tell you.
My interpretation was that they were going to say, do you know this person?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Did you say anything like this to this person? Having been in that chair before, I understand what's going on.
No, I've been in that chair also, Your Honor, but I think that there may be two interpretations for people who've been in that chair.
I missed a few lessons, buddy.
Plausible guess as to why they were here.
It certainly was, but let me think with you a minute as one who's been in that chair also at the same time Your Honor was. Remember.
No, you were supervising me in that chair.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I wasn't going to say that, Your Honor. Your Honor, with regard to that, if you please, you and I
did an excellent job, Mr. Kyle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
But with regard to that, Your Honor, in that office, you know, these witnesses aren't just sitting up there all day. Sylvia's not up there all day by herself, not being interviewed by the investigators and what's happening. What I'm pointing out to you, if the court deems that they need some time, these are experienced lawyers. Mr. Darden had a book full of information to try and cross-examine Ms. Lopez. All we're saying is we want to go ahead. Judge, they talk out of both sides of their mouth every day. On Friday evening, they said to you, let's go before the jury. Then they change that for whatever reason. Then when they come in Monday morning, they have a motion to say, well, we want a conditional exam. Now, Ms. Clark stands before you and says, we really want her before the jury, but they'll never really call her because we got all this great cross-examination. That's what they always say, Judge. Throughout their entire case, from the time they had this rush to judgment, all they do is talk. We want them to present the evidence. And if the court feels that these lawyers who are experienced counsel need some time for cross-examination, then so be it. But it seems to me when Mr. Darden started on Friday, Your Honor, spent the better part of the afternoon on insignificant issues with Ms. Lopez, who then, the court rules that she's a witness who is going back to El Salvador. And then we come back here Monday, instead of her going before the juries, we all thought it was going to happen. We left here Friday at 6:30 or 7. We then reverse field. We come back, and now we start our conditional examination. The court got that done. Then now, because of the fact of the tape and everything, they cannot proceed until Friday. You know, that is just unheard of in a case where we have 21 jurors, and not to mention, not only the jurors.
You needed 7 weeks when this happened to you. You asked for and received 7 weeks.
We have Rosa Lopez, Judge, and let me just focus on her for a moment. It seems to me that sometimes my worthy adversaries are totally insulated from what happens out in the world. There are a lot of people who are watching this case, and we have to try to do what is right. And Rosa Lopez is innocent of any.
I'm sorry, but what happens outside of the courtroom has no bearing on what the law is. Just doesn't.
Wrongdoing if there's all. And to have her maligned by the prosecution for their own purposes, I think is outrageous. Many people believe she's a very, very credible witness. But it doesn't matter what Marcia Clark thinks. Doesn't matter what Chris Darden thinks. Doesn't matter what Sherry Lewis thinks. In the final analysis, it's what those 12 people think over there. And that's where they're going to get their big surprise. When people send in flowers for Rosa Lopez, offer her jobs, send her money in, that's because they understand and they have seen her testimony and observed her. When Ms. Clark stands here and talks about her being untruthful, she is absolutely wrong. Whether you look at the statement, Your Honor, that Pavlik sends to Shapiro on the 29th, where she talks about the Bronco being there from 8:30 till the next morning. Where you look at the statement of August 18th, she talks about the Bronco being there from the 8:30 until the next morning and talking to Furman thereafter. Where you look at the tape where they talk about the Bronco being there until the next morning. Judge, they have a problem. And the reason why they are going through all these machinations, they're not fooling anybody, is because this is a problem with them. And I should tell you also that because of the conduct or the way they conduct themselves toward witnesses, there are a number of other witnesses out there, Judge, who know that Bronco was there, who are afraid to come forward. A number of other witnesses who up and down Rockingham, as we're sitting here right now, who know that Bronco was there, whose employers will not let them come forward and testify, some of whom are undocumented. And it is a travesty because we're faced with that situation, Your Honor, in the face of a man who we believe has been wrongfully accused. And so if there is vehemence.
Wait. Counsel, please. Mr. Cochran.
So if there's vehemence on both sides, Your Honor, you can fully understand it. But back to the focal point is this. Your Honor, could you ask them, may I complete my statement? I try not to interrupt
Please.
him. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Darden, please. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. The point I was trying to make, Your Honor, was we want to conduct and complete this conditional examination. Somewhere along the way, as I asked the court to consider the jurors, to consider Rosa Lopez, who was supposed to leave for El Salvador, was it last night? The reservations were moved. She's got to go back to the other state first. And Judge, you know, she is the one who had promised you. She does not want to be here.
A round trip ticket. She didn't buy a one-way ticket. She wants to leave. Okay. She bought a round trip ticket.
She's not asking to be here. She wonders why, because I saw something. Do I have to be drugged through this? And my name sullied by these people who have nothing else to do but talk. And so I think that's really unfair, Your Honor. And I just think that somebody to speak up for Rosa Lopez and certainly for OJ Simpson, who's the one on trial here. And that's why we entrust the fairness to Your Honor.
Forgot about
if they're
him.
entitled to some time, you know the competence of these lawyers for the prosecution. Your Honor, they are ready to proceed with their prosecution. I spoke to Mr. Darden before Ms. Clark came down, and he said they were typing up the transcript. You've already done the transcript while they're talking about it. There is a transcript. How much more do they want from this transcript? All they got to do is play the tape. Let's all listen to this tape, since they think it's so impeaching. Let's listen to the tape and see what it does for it. Let's play it for the jury if they're so worried about it. I give them an offer right now. Let's play it for the jury. I'm saying
illegal.
Let's put Rosa Lopez up there. Let's complete this examination. What they want to do, Judge, by bringing the Salingers here, by bringing Sylvia here, by trying to prolong this, they want her to run away. You made a finding that she wants to leave, and she does. And if you talk to her now, and I'm going to ask you before you make a decision, finally, to talk to her lawyer. Mr. Jones is not here, but Ms. Hamburger is here. Talk to her lawyer about her present state of mind. She definitely figures into this, and factor in the competence of these lawyers and the fact they're already ready. They've known about this witness since August 18th. And then to come and tell you, today is Tuesday, Judge, February 28th, to tell you they need until March 3rd is just absolutely beyond belief. And you talk about credibility. It's the same kind of credibility that had Ms. Clark stand up yesterday and said the July 29th statement didn't talk about the Bronco being there overnight. That's in her dreams. It's there every place, every time. And Furman is there every place and every time. And they know that Furman came to see her the next day. So what are they going to do about that? It's like the other witnesses they want to avoid. They don't want to deal with it. So with the court, before you make a final decision, at least talk to Ms. Hamburger with regard to somebody other than myself should speak for Ms. Rosa Lopez. You've been fair about that, and I'd ask you to do that again. And perhaps Ms. Lopez also.
All right, let me hear from Ms. Clark, and then I'll hear from Ms. Hamburger.
It's just so blatant.
All right, Ms. Clark, would you focus your comments on how much time is reasonably necessary to evaluate this transcript, the tape, and then add that into your cross-examination mix? Because that's really the issue I need to address.
And it really is. I'm sorry.
Marsha,
We're not just talking.
Marsha, all you need to do is tell the judge you need 7 weeks. He might only give you 5. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Because they can't give it to you. They cannot give you 7 weeks. Even though they gave the other side 7 weeks, they can't give you 7 weeks because she's leaving apparently, which she bought a round trip ticket. The only way out of this mess is to put her back where she belongs. Screw you, defense. You had your chance. You abused it. Go away. Tell him you need 7 weeks. That's what the other side had. That's absolutely fair. The judge might give you 5 weeks, but it doesn't matter because you won't be shoving her in 5 weeks. They won't. They'll just put her back where she was and get her here. You're right in this. Just ask for 7 weeks and shut up. Don't give the judge anything to deny your request. If you say this is what I need because blah 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 blah, he'll take all that blah 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 and shoot you down. Just say I need 7 weeks. Don't give him any ammunition.
About a statement and a taped transcript. We are talking about the witnesses whose testimony becomes relevant and important as a result of that, about which this witness has to be cross-examined, with which this witness has to be confronted. We're talking about the testimony of the Salingers. We're talking about the testimony of Sylvia. We're talking about the direct testimony already of Rosa, which is inconsistent with each of the statements she's given and the taped transcript that we have, as well as numerous other witnesses. This is not a little thing. This is a big thing. And I'm sensitive to the issues of witnessing inconvenience. I deal with it every day. We all do as prosecutors. This is something that Your Honor is very familiar with. Prosecutors have to deal with constantly. And Rosa Lopez is living better right now than she may ever have in her life. And so and counsel knows it's true.
Marsha, what does that have to do with anything? Now, you just gave the judge ammunition to shoot you down for no reason, because that means nothing to this case. Just tell him how much time you need. If you say anything more than 3 days, which is absolutely fair, everything falls apart for the defense right now. Everything. Just don't say 3 days. Just do that.
He knows very well it's true. She's not in any way, shape, or form being inconvenienced. And for him to say it's outrageous for us to prepare for cross-examination is the diatribe that this courtroom has been subjected to, and this court has been subjected to, is nothing short of appalling. All he wants to do is prevent the cross-examination that his witness is going to be subjected to. But we are talking about substantial amounts that has been engendered by this new information, which is, as I've told the court, tripled the cross, because it's brought in a number of other witnesses.
All right,
And
having said that,
I've asked the court for the very least
Dumbass.
amount of time we can possibly prepare in. I've asked the court for the very minimum amount. You know, I mean, if we were the defense attorneys, we'd be standing here asking the court for 6 weeks, which is what they did. I'm not asking the court for that. I did ask the court to terminate the conditional examination. I think that's an appropriate sanction. I think that's the appropriate thing to do in light of the witness's inconsistent statements and the behavior that she's exhibited to this court. The court doesn't need to talk to Ms. Hamburger. The court has heard from this witness herself about her state of mind and all of the inconsistent statements and behavior. And when counsel talks about the harassment by the press, this is a witness who's pulling on the skirt of the reporter from Court TV. Oh, I like you.
well, we've talked about that point already.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Just, there's nothing about this witness that should give anyone pause about her willingness, her desire, her anxiousness to help the defense in any way possible and say anything she can.
Can you give me any better, other than the generalities that we've talked about? Can you give me any other reason why it is you need all the way till
No.
Friday to
No.
evaluate the transcript of this tape and the tape recording?
Yes, you
First
do
of
it,
all, Your Honor,
Marsha.
we're only
It's easy.
talking-
It's stop. Don't say what you're about to say. Please, for the love of God, do not. Take 2 of those statements that she had in there. I know you don't want to give the defense foreshadowing of what you want to do. I understand that. That's why I said just 2. There's a whole bunch of statements in that 12 minutes. Take 2. She said, ABC, a person, this person, Sylvia, blah, blah, blah. Your Honor, I need time to go investigate Sylvia. I need to talk to Sylvia about this question. You know, that'll take 3 days alone. And then take another statement. And then she said, Furman, blah, blah, blah. I need time to go investigate Furman to check out this statement. But there are 30 statements like this, Judge. I need to go and impeach every single one of them. Boom. That's all you have to say. Don't tell him anything else.
2 days for something that most attorneys would be requesting weeks to do.
No, 3 days.
Well, it's close to that. I think that's very little time. I think it's extraordinarily reasonable of the people, given the nature of the new information that we've got and the impeaching nature of the tape and the statement. And I've been, I think, very specific to the court. We have found inconsistencies, such as defense counsel.
Good girl. Good girl.
postures about
Yes.
the fact that she was consistent? No. In the July 29th statement, she states,
Good girl.
in the statement, Ms. Lopez stated that at approximately 10:15 to 10:20, she took her dog for a walk, and 5 minutes later, she returned to her residence. Ms. Lopez stated that the last time she heard OJ talking was at approximately 11 o'clock. She is adamant that from the moment she first observed the Bronco at about 8:30 until the following day, the Bronco was not moved. Nowhere in this statement is a specific mention of seeing the Bronco at 10:15. Miraculously, in the August 18th interview, the following statement is made. At approximately 10:15 to 10:20,
yes.
Ms. Lopez took her dog for a walk, and 5 minutes later, she returned to her residence. During this time, Ms. Lopez again observed OJ Simpson's Bronco to be parked in the same position near the Rockingham gate. I call that a material conflict. Now, what the court heard in listening to the tape is that there was no mention of Sylvia, yet a report purporting to be prepared from the interview of the same date, July 29th, has in it the following paragraph. Shortly after he left, her friend Sylvia came by, and they had a cup of coffee. They spent together approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and Ms. Lopez drove Sylvia to her house a couple of minutes away. When Sylvia observed Simpson's Bronco, she made a comment about the way it was parked. Ms. Lopez stated that OJ always parks his car that way. Miraculously, in the August 18th statement,
She is
that
much
paragraph
better than
disappears.
Kaufman. 100%.
We're talking about material, huge inconsistencies that need to be explored with all the
Look at
witnesses
Cochran
that pertain to
smiling and
these
laughing at her.
observations.
Oh,
But isn't that something that you can explore logistically after this person has completed their direct examination, after you've had the opportunity to ask Ms.
No.
Lopez about these things?
Well, yeah,
confirm-
because how can she ask Ms. Lopez about these things before Friday, Judge? How? It took time to find that information, to find what she said here and look around at what she said here and then what she said here. They need to do that with all of the statements.
Honored with
Oh, sugar, it's 8:03. I'm so sorry. I got sucked completely in. This is a good stopping point. We need to go get our blood pressure down. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. I really, really, really appreciate it. I shall see you all again in 2 days. Behave, okay? Bye-bye.